Everybody's talking about Suicide Squad. Is it really that bad?
This doesn't seem like the game they probably wanted to make.
No,
and
it doesn't seem like it.
So apparently they found like this dev. He was like working at a convenience store.
They've been acquiring a ton over the last like 5, maybe 10 years. Welcome to Two Souls. This is the news. Your news. Our news. This is news, and we're gonna be going over it.
We're still tightening that one up.
We're still tightening that one up. When we have that nailed down, we'll let you all know.
This segment's gonna have a nice shiny name, and that's gonna go on for centuries. Maybe not that long. But
Your children will be talking about it.
They'll be like, Daddy, remember Two Souls?
And then once we die, the hosts will just change.
Yeah,
and it'll keep going.
It'd be like the Twilight Zone with Rod Sterling.
And then it was with Jordan.
And then it was with Jordan Peele. He's like, the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's jump into this.
So let's get into it.
Suicide Squad.
You want to start us off, or you want me to start this one?
Why don't you start it off? You did that beautiful opening there.
Thank you. All right, so first up, we have Suicide Squad news. Now, it's having server issues. It was pulled an hour into early access due to auto game completion bugs. So basically, people were like logging into their early access, and the game was like already completed. I don't know.
Check it off your list. You boot it up, you're like,
I don't know how that happened, but but that was a problem for a little while. It's currently being tested, so I'm assuming they're trying to get people to like give their logs and stuff like that, so they can see what's going on. And then next, there was also an IGN previewer named Dustin Legary. And he gave a negative preview, and then WB Games did not provide them a review code. And then they later confirmed that they were never going to give IGN a code. So,
kind of sus.
The thing that was funny to me about that was the preview, because I saw that preview. He said the game was like, I want to say he said the game was really hard on some of the bosses. And then I was like watching streamers go through it, and dude, the game looks like really easy.
Yeah.
It looks really easy. It's like typical looter shooter where it's like, it's built for you to get through, and you don't really get like really cool gear until you like beat the game and start doing raids or whatever form.
The game really comes alive after you've beaten it, which is great with this auto completion bug because you can get right into the end game.
I don't understand how that was happening, but yeah, that's basically the news so far with Suicide Squad in terms of like just the news.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, I mean, it hasn't been a very steady launch for Rocksteady. It's been a little shaky. And from what we understand, too, it's just WB Games has had like a pretty heavy hand in the development and what they want to be changed. There's this whole thing happening in the games industry, and it's been happening for a while, but it's becoming more and more pervasive with developers that have already proven they're very talented and they've already tested their mettle, you know. So you get like Rocksteady, they're the ones that made like Arkham Asylum, just still a 10 out of 10 game. You know, Arkham City and then Arkham Knight, all great games. Like arguably like the best superhero trilogy that's been put out. And then they get handed this project, and WB Games just wants them to make it so they can make more money. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, from what I was hearing, like Warner Brothers in general is kind of pushing a lot of their games to have these kinds of like games as service, battle pass, like super monetizing or monetized like just formats. And I think that's also why like Mortal Kombat's been coming out the way it has.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's like kind of greedy with the way that it's formatted. And especially 11, because they toned that down a little bit for 1, like Mortal Kombat 1 or whatever, but it was like really bad in 11 when it started. Or like when it launched. But yeah, from what I've been hearing, like what I've been reading, it's like Warner Brothers as a whole has been pushing for a lot of that. And so in terms of Rocksteady working on this, I believe they've been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
And throughout development, they were like slowly pushed further and further and further towards what we got now, where it's like this looter shooter, hero based, whatever, or villain based, like looter shooter kind of like open world, whatever. And they're even like doubling down on it with that whole Joker. Like they're gonna add Joker as a playable character, but it's like obviously spoilers if you haven't played the Arkham games, but like Joker's dead in this universe. He's just like dead in this universe, and they're bringing in a Joker from like another dimension or whatever. But for me, I'm like, I already see what they're doing. I'm like, this is gonna be okay, a new battle pass, and there's like these wacky skins that they're gonna have for characters, and then there's gonna be probably like a new character. Oh, what villain is it this? And I'm like,
multiple currencies.
Yeah, multiple currencies, and oh, you got to get all your daily missions done to get the suicide bucks, so you can buy your skins or whatever.
It's just unfortunate because, you know, I don't know. I get the vibe that, like, despite what Rocksteady might say, I haven't read a lot of their interviews, but this doesn't seem like the game they probably wanted to make. No, and
it doesn't seem like it.
This is what happens, like, when you've got... I mean, this happens across all art forms. This is not just video games. This happens with movies. It happens with shows. It happens with plenty of different, you know, music, you know, books, all of this stuff. But it's like, this is what happens when you've got, like, the publisher or the main holding company, like, trying to push it so they can get, like, more money out of it. Yep. Like, ruins the art. So... We'll see how things turn out.
It's sad too, because like this is the last, I believe, like in general, this is like the last performance from Kevin Conroy as Batman.
I read that it's not. I read that there's something else.
There's other stuff he recorded. Yeah. All right, well that does help a little bit, I guess, but it's still sad nonetheless. It's like one of his last ones, and they built it up too with like, I forget when they released the trailer, but. There's like a trailer they released where they kind of built up like, oh, Batman, you're going to fight Batman, and Kevin Conroy's voicing, you know, one more ride with like this voice actor. And then the game is what it is. And it's just like, it's just kind of sad, you know, especially after Arkham Knight. It's like, this is just so, it feels out of left field.
Yeah.
Like completely. And it's just kind of sad, but that's basically the news. It's having a really rough launch. I've been seeing reviews come out more recently, and yeah, it's getting like 5s. Like I think I got a 5 from IGN and GameSpot.
Goodness.
I haven't checked the mega thread, like the review mega thread yet, but
yeah,
the game's super short too apparently. But
yeah, I was hearing 9 to 10 hours.
Yes.
So.
Yes. We'll keep you all updated on the Suicide Squad news.
They'll probably add that to Games Pass at some point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, they added the Gotham Knights, didn't they? So
I've heard people say Gotham Knights was better.
So that's saying something, huh?
Like, didn't that one have like a really rough launch too?
Yeah, it did. It did.
Oh boy.
Goodness. Well, we're gonna switch off from Suicide Squad, where everyone has guns. You know, like. Even the big shark guy, and now we're going to go to Pal World, where even the little Pal Mons have guns. So there's some more Pal World news. Game's been popping off still. A lot more developments. So we talked about it in the last episode, some of the allegations of, you know, plagiarism and whatnot. So pretty interesting. Nintendo actually did put out a statement, though not directly to Pal World. And so they posted on their site and said that they are investigating inquiries regarding, quote, another company's game released in January of 2024. I have the whole quote here, so I'm just going to read it. It's not too long. They said, we have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January of 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future. The Pokemon Company. So number one, I mean, like, they're not pointing out Pal World. They're not calling them out.
I wonder what game it is.
Yeah, so it could be some other game, you know, though, you know, I got an inkling it's probably Pal World. Second huge thing, I just love that they said they want to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon in its world. You know, so, you know, it's it's almost like they're actual creatures that live. They're like, our goal is to nurture and cherish them so that we can actually change the world with them. And I'm like, dude, that is one heck of a statement.
They're like, have you heard about the Kanto region rainforests?
It's a real serious problem.
Deforestation's a huge problem over there.
Yeah. It's like...
Poor Sudowoodo.
Yeah. All the Sudowoodos.
Like, do you know how many Bidoofs don't have any home to go to?
Yeah.
It's a real problem.
It honestly it is. You know, it's like...
Is it Bidoof or Bidoof?
I always called it Bidoof.
Nice.
Yeah. He was my HM slave.
Yeah. Same.
Can I say that? Or is that improper?
It's fine, it's Pokemon.
All of the moves that I needed to traverse the world, I'd slap them on my Bidoof. Which to someone who doesn't know about Pokemon, that sounds like probably some sort of euphemism for something, but I assure you it's not. So, pretty interesting. Nintendo responded. And then, a little bit more news. There's been a lot of interviews with the dev themselves, and one of the developers from there was actually, self-taught. They're like, dude, we've got too many RPGs being made in Japan. We don't have a lot of, shooter experienced developers. So apparently they found, this dev. He was, working at a convenience store. And he was self-taught. He taught himself how to make shooters. And they're like, we need you for Power World.
We need you to make a mechanic.
We need you to make a mechanic. What is that? We need to be able to shoot things. Like the Pokemon need to be able to shoot things.
Heard of Pokemon?
Yeah, this artist was found on Twitter/X. Entirely self-taught. You learn from YouTube. So for those of you who say that you can't learn something through YouTube, this guy taught himself how to make things that shoot. And yeah, I mean, just...
Aren't guns, a really easy thing to make, though?
How so?
Like in code?
In code? I don't know. I've never made a gun before in code.
Because it's just like...
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because it's just something... It's either a line, a straight line...
It's where the crosshair is
or
pointed
it's
on.
an object that's just going.
Yeah.
And then you program the trajectory or whatever.
Yeah. Man, it's a gross
Well, you know what?
simplification.
It is, but
We'll have Marco's coded gun next week for the show.
Yeah,
and the footage. We'll share it on YouTube where people can learn for themselves. But yeah, I mean, that's apart from that, Power World is still seeing magnificent success across all of the Twitch platforms. People streaming all these Pokemons or Palmons. Don't get me Nintendo.
I kind of want to check out the game because it's on Games Pass.
Yeah, I have it downloaded. I haven't checked it out yet.
We should party up, dude.
Oh, gosh, listen, here's a problem.
I feel like it's gonna be so annoying.
It's gonna be obnoxious, and I'll tell you right now for our listeners.
It's okay, I'm ready. I'm about to throw my. Did you throw your Pokeball on it, dude?
I have my pal ball.
Did you throw your pal ball?
I've talked about this before, and I've talked about this before, and I personally have a thing with all these games trying to add in crafting and building, and every single game's got to craft and build in an open world.
Why can't they just shoot Pokemon?
Why can't we just shoot things? Why can't it just be one thing? Everyone's like, oh, it's an open world, so there's building in it, isn't there? Can I cut down a tree? Every single trailer, you got some guy cutting down a friggin' tree.
Because I feel like a lot of games will be they'll have a cool idea and they'll be like, but it has to be open world.
Yeah.
And then the second it's open world, they're like, what the hell are you going to do in this open world? Where you just
and then there's that one guy in the corner, it's like cut trees.
He's like, I found another guy at another convenience store who knows how to code farming simulators. Yeah,
more than guns being the easiest thing to program and code. Judging by the amount of games, the sheer amount of games that have like logs that you can procure, I would say that probably cutting a tree is probably the easiest thing.
It's just it's overdone.
It's like, you want to sit down with a game, you want to relax, it's been a long day of work, you've been building things at work, you're building your life, you're doing all these different things, you come home, and you're like, yeah, let me boot up a game. And now let me build my home again. Let me cut down some trees, and it's work.
The only game that looked kind of interesting, I don't even remember the name of it, but it was this game where you're cutting down trees and getting all these materials, and then you build a store. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
You can do it with friends. You build a store, and then little NPCs will come in and shop at your store.
Yeah.
And then you're basically just growing your store, but you have to chop down trees to make it bigger and stuff like that.
Because it all comes back to trees, Marco. All things come back to trees.
You click the GoFundMe to send money to the Kanto region so they can help with their deforestation.
Yeah, literally. I mean, and then what do you need for that money? And that's bills, and the bills come from trees. I mean, it's a whole thing. But I digress. We're going to move on to our last and final topic for the news. This is a big one.
Yes.
So Microsoft.
Yes.
They just laid off 1,900 staff from its video game workforce. It's 1,900 people without jobs now. This news comes by way of a massage. This news comes by way of a message to staff from Phil Spencer.
Can you imagine? He's like, just go get a massage.
Go get a massage.
They're like, you're fired.
They're like, this is your last one. so the knot comes back.
It's like, no, calm down. You're tensing up again.
No, don't see it. I'm going to have to work that out again. Goodness gracious.
Oh my gosh.
So the reduction of approximately 1,900 roles were out of a total of 22,000 for the team. So this is like a 10% decrease of employees there. So Xbox will, quote, provide full support to those who are impacted during the transition, including severance benefits informed by local employment laws. So a lot of movement happening over at Microsoft right now. So they just acquired Blizzard Entertainment, an Activision that just went through, what was that, like a month ago, 2 months ago?
Very recent.
It was very recent. Before that, they had several other acquisitions that they had gone through. And so I get the feeling that they've bitten off a little more than they can chew. And some of the things that they're banking on aren't doing as well as they thought they would. They've got so many games that they're working on, so many studios. And I don't know, it's just it's a little concerning because one thing is like you've got a lot of studios and they're all making games but they get to keep their job. This has been happening across the board, like in the industry. And Microsoft just they have a lot of people. They have a lot of development companies. So this is unfortunate to hear.
Yeah.
Our hearts do go out to all the people that lost their jobs because, man, that's rough.
I think a lot of this too is like because of just all these acquisitions, dude. Like you and I've talked about it. I think we've talked about it on the podcast too. But like, I think all of these things are results of like the mass amount of like acquisitions they've been making. Because like there's the big ones like Blizzard and Activision and then like Bethesda. But it's like if you just look at all the small devs, like from small to like AA to like obviously like Blizzard and like the bigger devs and stuff like that, they've been acquiring a ton over the last like 5 maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think like I don't know, I just think all this stuff is all like a result of that. Because it's like most of the time when companies grow super big really quickly, they struggle and they end up having to lay off or like liquidate or whatever. They have to do a bunch of different stuff, but it becomes like a struggle to keep up. But yeah, I think a lot of this is just a result of all the acquisitions, and I think this is the start of it.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a lot of politics involved too. To that point, Blizzard Entertainment's president Mike Ibarra announced he is leaving the company as well. So he's gone. Blizzard's chief design officer and co-founder Alan Adham is also leaving, and along with that, a long in development survival game dubbed Odyssey was also canceled at Blizzard. So a lot of changes happening over there. We wish the best to everyone that's moving around. The Communication Workers of America, otherwise known as the CWA, represent hundreds of gaming workers. And they stated that, quote, to continue to support workers at Microsoft and across the video game industry, they want to continue to support workers at Microsoft and across the video game industry who want to have a union voice on the job. They said that, quote, layoffs in the video game industry are becoming the norm, even at companies that continue to deliver huge profits. So these cuts all came after a recently held showcase where Xbox previewed games like Machine Games' Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Fantastic name, by the way. Obsidian's Avowed, and Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2, and there's even more than that, but those are like the big ones. It's like, what are you guys doing over there? You guys have like you guys are getting a lot of profits. We know that Games Pass sales have gone up. That was one of the main things that they're hitting on, and then the cloud gaming services, and then you're cutting people's jobs. It's a little frustrating. According to IGN, actual figures are difficult to obtain, and estimates suggest, however, that the number of workers laid off in games last year approached or exceeded 10,000 across the industry.
Damn.
So a recent GDC survey of developers suggested 1/3 of all game devs were impacted by layoffs last year. Rough industry. That's a rough industry to be in right now. So we'll see how things continue to progress.
We'll see how it continues. We'll keep all you guys updated. And again, I just really think this is like the start of what we're going to be seeing with Microsoft and this kind of stuff. Because like, even just dev cycle wise, or thinking in terms of dev cycles, like from all the stuff that they've acquired, like now is the time where they're going to start, like, I think, like, they're going to start, like, cutting the chaff out, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Like, the stuff that they see that isn't going to do well, or they're like, okay, we, like, have to put this on Games Pass, whatever, I bet you they're going to just cancel it, like, get rid of the devs, like, whatever. Just
I see this as...
They're gonna just be making moves, dude.
I see this as growing pains in the games industry, and this kind of goes hand in hand with, you know, a lot of the stuff that you and I have talked about on camera and off camera. There's just simply too many games and not enough time. And with all the games coming out, there's not enough people to play them to make it profitable for everyone.
Yeah, you have to be like
that's what I'm seeing across the board. And people get older and they're not going to want to play games as much. Like you're going to have to that's why a lot of people are catering. A lot of developers are catering for like we were talking about CS:GO. They're catering to like their people that are there that are going to play their game. Like, how can we keep them here so we can keep the money flowing? Like, you know, and it's to me, I get it because there's the business side of things and then there's the art, like the game, you know, and it's unfortunate to see because I think that games as a medium are first art, not business. Though I do recognize that there is, just with anything, you need to have a way to sustain yourself to keep making it, you know, but I think that there's gonna be these are the rumblings of like changes in the tide. Like there's gonna be things that are gonna start changing around, you know. I think there's gonna be a lot of releases, and we've been seeing it, a lot of releases where they come out and they do well, and then like critically they do well, and then later on game players and people are playing the games are like, I don't know about that, you know. There's a lot of games that are just so huge in scope you couldn't possibly get to them all, you know. And I think that right now we're at a weird spot, an odd spot where, you know, kind of like the Larian Studio CEO said, where he's like, you know, we've got all these subscriptions. He goes, if people keep throwing their monies at these subscriptions and they keep playing games for them, then publishers are going to keep developing those subscription models. Then that's going to dictate which games get made. And it's all going to be data driven as opposed to something that like you might actually want to see yourself play, like actually enjoy. Yeah. And so we'll see how things go. You know, we'll keep an eye on like how these things go and continue to talk about it, you know, as we see it, you know. But for me, I'm just a little concerned that, you know, we've been seeing it for a while. I'm concerned that games are going to get to a point where it's like, dude, like the people that are making interesting games are not making them anymore. Like Rocksteady, dude, like the Arkham trilogy was genuinely like a fantastic trilogy. All three of them.
It's a pretty perfect trilogy.
Okay, yeah,
like, and they didn't really miss the mark anywhere.
Yeah, and like now they get handed this, and WB Games has got them under their thumb a bit. You know, like Rocksteady's not going to say that. I highly doubt that they would want to come out and say that right now because most game developers aren't unionized.
They're like in the middle.
They have no protections.
Yeah, they're like in the middle of trying to get like Twitch streamers sponsored to like bring in more traction.
Yeah, these are all like necessary things. How it ends up going, like we'll see. These are all like, this games industry is still so fresh, you know. But the hope is that people are able to have, you know, more agency in like what they choose to make, and you know, hopefully, you know, we get to see more stuff come out that's actually really interesting, because I think there's just been a lot of games that just feel like it's like a corporate like manufactured sort of like product where it's like, oh, this is like statistically what should do the best, and so we put that out. And I want to see things that actually make me that enhance my life. You know, I don't play games all the time. Like, you know, you might think that, like, because we're doing a podcast, I'm playing it all the time. That's not what we're aiming at here. Like, we love games as an art form and as a medium, and we want to keep our eye on the pulse of like what's happening with the industry. But with that in mind, I'm like, I want to play games that are going to make me think, that are going to be evocative, that I'm going to want to play later, that are not going to take up like 40, 50, 60 hours of my time. Like, it's just too much. It's too much. And like, I genuinely think less is more when it comes to games. And
it's really like kind of sad too, because it's like, it's in this position where it's like, I think there's like the games that are, like you're saying, like they're just like very corporate produce, so to speak. It's just like something to like get the numbers up. And then there's like a bunch of games that are like more serious, and you can tell the devs are like trying to like do something special with it. And then like deep within that, there's like games like even like a Yakuza, where it's like that's like a great game, but it's like because of how many other games are so long, like how many people are really even gonna like play? And obviously, there's a lot of people that are gonna play, like, because they know the franchise and stuff like that. But it's like,
it's had its staying power at this point.
It has its staying power, but it's like, you know, this is kind of a bad example for that one, I guess, in that regard. But there's plenty of games like that where it's like they're also long games. And back in the day, like you'd get like one game like that a year, every other year, every 5 years, whatever, and like you'd remember it for that. But now it's like we're getting them like every year. That even if there's a good one, like it's really hard for it to like break up to the surface, or break through to the surface rather. But
well, that's what we're here for. We're
here to help break through to the surface.
Yeah, we're here to curate, to find the gold in the past and in the present.
Yes.
You know, because I think that it's still rather hopeful outlook. You know, depending on how I choose to look at it. Hopefully, like this is going to enact good change.
I think all this is going to ebb and flow.
Yeah,
because I think a big thing that's going on right now is like the player base in like every game and in the whole industry of games right now. Literally, a lot has happened within the last like 10 years, and especially like in terms of how many players and how many gamers there are. Like, dude, the numbers like they shot off through the roof within the last like 10 years. And so I think there's this thing happening where there's a lot of new gamers, relatively new gamers, that like are learning how to play games and learning what there is to games. And maybe their first game was like a God of War, like 2018 or whatever, and they're like, wow, it's gotten like so much more sophisticated. Because it has. But there's still like a lot of older games that like there's building blocks to it, you know, like as a gamer. So it's like they're coming in here, but there's all this other stuff that we've played that they haven't. And so there's a lot of new gamers that like genuinely, I think, just haven't experienced like what gaming really can be. Because I think God of War is like a good example, but I don't think it's the best example of what gaming can be. Because there's a lot of other games that do stuff like, just in terms of like, honestly, like even Bloodborne, like we were talking about, where it's like you get aggressive and you get into it because the game supports that kind of like play style. And then when you're like reading in lore or you're hearing story beats or whatever, like you see how that lines up with that.
Yeah.
And it's like a really special experience. And there's a lot of games that do stuff like that in different ways that I think a lot of new gamers haven't experienced. But like the majority of gamers, I think right now, are new gamers, like relatively new, like within the last like 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's a lot of people I know that are like adults that are barely getting into games, and then obviously there's like a shitload of new kids that are like now getting to the age where they're getting into the Fortnite and this and that. And so I think we're just in this really like interesting spot where it's like I think everything's just trying to balance out because of like how much it's exploded. Like there's like so many more players now, dude, for like every game.
Consequences.
Yeah.
Consequences.
But yeah, I think it's all like it's in a weird like I think Cory Barlog put it the best, where he's like, gaming is getting so big, he's like, and it's changing and it's getting a lot more sophisticated. He's like, and it's almost like going through puberty right now. He's like, where it's like a little awkward and it's like it's trying to do this but it doesn't do it very well, or it's like trying to do it and it figures out it's really good at this thing, and it's like the whole industry feels like that right now. And it feels like we're slowly making our way through it. But I think a lot of that's also due to just like, again, like the player base just growing so much. So it's like,
Well, there's a lot of new games that are coming out that are good. A lot of them that are in the past.
Yes.
And a little later this week on the games, we're going to be going way back.
We're going very far back.
Going far back.
We're gonna go so far back.
Just you see. We thank you for joining us. This has been your news last week, but now, something like that, you know. We'll catch you next time.